Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of this 6-part masterclass series on Idea to Reality. We're Project Management Institute, partnered with the Tony Alumni Foundation, and we're bringing you this collaboration. This series focuses on project management and entrepreneurship. My name is George Asamani. I'm Business Development Leader for PMI in Africa, and I'm joined by Otema Yirenkyi, who is Managing Director and Vice President of Global Engagement at PMI. We're also joined by Stephen Townsend, who is Director of Knowledge Networks at PMI. So we kicked off this series 3 weeks ago, for those who were here before, and we had an incredible amount of feedback saying how excited everyone is about the TEF and PMI partnership. We're excited as well, and we're looking forward to continuing the rest of the series. You can continue to send your comments, send them right here on the live chat, or even afterwards via email. So part 1 of the series looked at project management for successful SMEs. And the next 5 parts will look at specific aspects of an entrepreneur's journey. Today, specifically, we're going to be hearing from Otema Yirenkyi and Stephen Townsend on strategy and portfolio management. So today's episode is titled, Put Your Money Where Your Strategy Is. So let's get cracking. Remember, you can post your questions in the chat and we will address them during the Q&A session. If you registered for this session, you will receive slides afterwards, so don't worry about the slides. I know people tend to ask whether they'll receive the slides. You receive the slides and you receive the recordings available on YouTube anyway. For everyone who attends the 6 sessions, you will receive a certificate of learning as well. So without much further ado, I'd like to kick off and introduce Stephen Townsend to the session on Put Your Money Where Your Strategy Is.
Thank you, George. And thanks everyone for joining us today. Glad to have you all back for our 2nd session in the series. So I'm going to start with a discussion of strategy. So there used to be a time where organizations would have a 3 to 5 to 10-year strategy plan. And for those organizations, that strategy often remained relevant. In today's world, however, things are changing much more quickly. And so organizations are finding that instead of having a detailed strategy for the next 3 to 5 years, they might at best be able to have some strategic principles that help to guide them for a year to 3 years. As this picture shows, think about a sports team. So this soccer team has been practicing and drilling their strategy for how they're going to win a game. But the challenge is that on the field, circumstances change in real time. And so the team can practice as much as they want, but they have to adapt to what's happening in real life. And so that's where your strategy and your portfolio come together. Your strategy gives you a goalpost and a direction that you're trying to move in, and your portfolio helps you guide and adapt to circumstances as they're changing in real time. Now, PMI's research has shown that there is a significant gap between strategy development and strategy execution. And from our perspective, one of the core opportunities to address this gap is what we call a system for value delivery. Now, the system for value delivery recognizes that organizations operate in an environment, whether that's an industry, whether that's a geography, whether that is on a global basis. So the organization is affected by the external environment, but the organization also has its own environment. So it may be divided into departments. There may be executives versus staff. So the organization has its own culture and its own focus as well. And as it grows and evolves, the internal environment needs to change so that the organization can continue to deliver value. So an organization has its strategy. What are our goals for the next 1 to 3 years? Now, strategy is all about choices. So you have to decide where are you going to invest your resources to drive that strategy forward. And that's where portfolios come in. Portfolios are around value decisions of, we need this capability in order to drive our business efficiencies forward. Or we need a new product in the market, so we're going to go down the path of developing this new offering that we can make available to the market. And those investments in turn drive programs and projects, which actually deliver the results that organizations are looking for. And once those results are developed and ready to go to market, as those results are being developed, there is a feedback loop back to the strategy. So has the situation in the market changed? So for example, has a competitor beat us to market with a similar product? And if so, how is our strategy in developing and releasing this product going to change as a result? Similarly, on the other end, if we invest more resources in accelerating getting our product to market, can we actually beat our competitors to market with a stronger product so that we can outperform them with our activity in the marketplace? So these feedback loops help to ensure that the portfolio is able to adapt and adjust, again, as the game is being played. Then, as the product is developed, it is put into operations. So your sales, your marketing, your communications, your customer support, all of those elements are key to support the product in the market to ensure that you can continue to realize value from it. So they continue to help your customers when you upgrade the product, when your customers have problems, when they want to move to the next version, your operation supports that continued engagement with the customer. And again, there's feedback back to the strategy from those operational activities as well. So are your customers telling you they want new features? Are they telling you that there are issues or problems in the latest software upgrade that you sent? All of that information goes back into informing your strategy and starting the process again. So the system for value delivery is one of the key ways that organizations can combat that gap between our strategy development and our strategy execution. As we talked about in the first series, the system for value delivery is based on capabilities. And I'm not going to go back into the detail that we covered in the last presentation, but I do want to point out that as we emphasized in the last session, capabilities have to be developed, improved, and adapted over time. So as your organization grows, the capabilities that you have now may not be the capabilities that you need when you have 100 or 150 people or 1,000 people in your organization. So your capabilities have to remain refreshed and relevant for the market and the customers that you're trying to serve. This chart identifies the connections between the value delivery system and the capabilities that element of the system provides. So your strategy provides a focus that helps you achieve your core business goals and objectives, even when there are periods of uncertainty in the market. Your portfolio helps to ensure that you are investing in the right kinds of activities, in the right capabilities, in the right products and services that your customer wants and that you are able to successfully deliver and support in the market. Now, some of those may have some risk associated with them. So for example, if you're developing a product or a service that you've never delivered before, that may represent a significant area of uncertainty for you because you're not sure how the market is going to react. The core with the portfolio is to make sure that within your organization, you are clear on what your risk tolerance is. So risk tolerance is about what level of investment are you willing to put at jeopardy if the idea or the concept cannot go forward. So there are some organizations that have a very high risk tolerance. Take SpaceX, for example. So putting a rocket into outer space or actually having manned missions to outer space involves a high level of risk. And so in order to develop the capability to actually take people into outer space, SpaceX has to have a fairly high level of risk tolerance. However, if you are developing medical supplies for deployment in hospitals, et cetera, your risk tolerance may not be very high because you want to make sure that the product that you're putting in the marketplace is of high quality and that it will not create any health risks for the people that you're serving. So organizations will have different levels of risk tolerance in which they're operating. And it's important that your organization, as you're looking at where you're going to invest your resources, has a conversation around, is this within a level of risk tolerance that we're willing to accept, or do we need to rethink or scale back elements of it so that it is within that level of risk tolerance? So once you make your investment decision, then programs and projects are the way in which you deliver the results. Now, programs collect a variety of interdependent activities within the organization and organize them into one value producing area that focuses on driving benefits realization or enabling change. So for example, a lot of organizations that look at mergers and acquisitions bring the other organization or bring the organizations together through programs so that they can look at, how do we integrate our technology systems? How do we integrate our people? How do we integrate our products? Which ones are we going to keep and which ones are we going to abandon? So that's a more holistic view. A project, on the other hand, looks to produce a single unique deliverable or result, and generally within a specific time period. So your projects are very useful when you're trying to very quickly come up with a specific result that's going to help you drive your business strategy, while a program is more focused on how do we change and transform our business so that we can deliver greater value. And then again, your operations are, you're keeping the lights on function. So your marketing, your procurement, your communications, your customer support, your sales, that help keep the organization's ongoing business activities functioning so that you can serve your customers effectively. Now, portfolio management in the context of your strategy is actually the mechanism that drives your strategy. So I like this quote from Gene Swank, which basically says, it's great to have ideas, but if you can't actually turn those ideas into something that your customers want, then the idea really isn't of value. And that's one reason why we talk about a system for value delivery, that you're not just investing in projects and programs for activity's sake. You're investing in projects and programs to help you turn your ideas into reality. So in this particular example, we have organizational goals and strategies informing the overall portfolio design. So think of Apple, for example. So Apple has the iPhone, they have the iPod, they have the iPad. All of those represent a different portfolio that governs that particular product over its life cycle and its evolution. So the overall portfolio design for the iPod is very different from the portfolio view for the iPhone, because they have different capabilities, different markets that they're trying to serve, et cetera. So the strategy informs the overall portfolio design and the goal and objective that we're trying to meet. Now, the design of and execution of the portfolio components, which are projects and programs, is around, how do we actually bring this new product to market? And once we have it in the market, how are we going to continue to support it? So again, take Apple. When Apple produces a new version of the iPhone, they not only have to support the new iPhone that they're putting in the market, but they have to support the older versions of the phone as well. So they have to think about, how are we going to manage having from iPhone 7 to iPhone 10 and 11 and beyond in the marketplace at the same time. So they're going to have a series of projects and programs that continue to update their core software. They're going to have new features that they're offering, new capabilities that they're offering. And they're going to put that in the marketplace through deliverables, either through upgrades to their software or through new capabilities in new phones that they're introducing. And as a result of all of these activities and the new products and the new services in the market, they're going to realize value. So their customers are going to upgrade to the new software, which means they're going to continue as customers of Apple. They're going to continue to use the Apple platform. And hopefully, when Apple puts out a new edition of the iPhone, they will switch from their current phone to that new phone. So Apple is focused on, how do we keep these customers with us for the full life cycle of this product in the marketplace, so that we can continue to realize value from that engagement. And as Apple begins to realize value, they look at, okay, what is the feedback that we're getting from our customers? What new features do they want? What new elements will help them be more productive and use the phone's capabilities for even more value producing opportunities? And at the same time, what are our competitors doing? What are other technologies that are evolving in the marketplace that we might want to leverage? And all of that information about the performance of the portfolio and what's going on in the market feeds back into the strategy as well as the redesign of the portfolio. So this is very much of an iterative living process, very much like the team playing on the field. It changes and adapts as the team begins to move things forward. Another key thing about the portfolio is that the portfolio leadership is constantly sensing what's going on. How are customers using your product? Where are they getting stuck? What features are they asking for that you don't currently offer? It's looking outside the organization at what are our competitors doing and who's developing new technologies that we might be able to leverage. With that information, the organization is in a position to potentially seize an opportunity. So is there an opportunity for us to partner with someone who's developing a new technology that helps us meet a customer need and create and enhance value for our product in the marketplace? So sensing is an activity that leads to another activity around seizing. And then you're also, in the context of portfolio agility, looking at what threats might be looming in the marketplace that you need to pay attention to. Are you seeing an overall sales decline in the use of digital phone services? Are you looking at potential opportunities to bring in a competitor or a competing product and partner or merge your organizations? So portfolio agility is around making sure that you're not just paying attention to your product, you're paying attention to your product in the marketplace and looking for opportunities to continue to grow and drive your business. Now, we talked about portfolios being around investments. You have three key opportunities. You can invest in initiatives that focus on running the business. So, do you need new capabilities? Do you need to change or improve your internal capabilities? For example, do you need stronger training for your sales team so that they can produce stronger sales results? Do you need additional functionality through some other type of technology to help you better understand what your customers need? Do you need process efficiencies? Are you finding that you really have a lot of non-value adding processes or steps in your customer interaction that really don't help your customer transact business with your organization? So maybe you need to improve some of your processes to make them more efficient and more effective. Also, there might be an opportunity to increase market expanding opportunities. Are your teams cross-selling products? Are you looking at adjacent markets that you can take advantage of? So all of those are run the business initiatives that you could invest in. You could also invest in change the business initiatives. Is there a new product or service that you could offer? Or is it time to completely abandon what you're doing and look at something completely different? Is there an opportunity to merge with or partner with an organization that has a capability that you don't have? Or is there an opportunity to move into a new market? And what type of infrastructure and sales channels and capabilities do you need if you decide to go down that path? So you could decide to invest in change the business initiatives. And it's always a good idea to reserve some funding so that you're in a position to address threats and opportunities that come up. So again, as we were talking about portfolio agility, which is about sensing what's going on in the market, seizing an opportunity, or responding to threats and issues in the market, you want to make sure that you have some funding available in your reserves so that you can have resources to invest as opportunities or threats emerge that you weren't expecting. Now, I'm going to walk you through a quick case study that shows you how this works in practice, and then we're going to end with an actual real live example of how a company built this system. So in this particular instance, we have a company that's been around for several years, and they've had a number of projects, and their projects are fairly successful. But they found that their projects really haven't been focused on producing business value. They might be internal pet projects, or they might be more focused on internal improvements, but not really something that's strategic for the business. So while the organization has been engaged in these projects and operating its business, it's found that its competition has increased significantly and is now impacting the company's business financial margins. At the same time, they're finding that they're not really generating any new customers, and maybe some of their customers are actually going to their competitors because their competitors are actually responding to what their customers are needing in the marketplace. And there's always new regulation or business rules, and this company seemed to not be paying attention to those. So the executive leaders got together and decided we need to change. We need a strategic focus for our organization. And so they decided we're going to have 4 strategic objectives that we're going to focus on investing in. Number 1 is we're going to diversify our market. So we have to find new places to sell our product. Number 2 is we're really not an efficient organization. So we need to invest in improving our internal capabilities and reducing our operating costs so we can increase our profit margins. We need to manage our knowledge better, and we need to build internal training so that we can put our new hires to work much more quickly than we are now. And for the purposes of this example, I'm going to focus on the Operational Excellence Initiative, which has a strategic objective of within 2 years, we want to see a 5% reduction in our operating costs based on where we are now. So if that's our strategic objective, then what we want to track is, are we reducing our operating costs? And we can look at that on a month-by-month basis. We can look at it on a quarterly basis. We can look at it at half a year, and we can look at it at a year to see, are we moving towards the goal of a 5% overall reduction in our operating costs? Now, to achieve that, we decide that our portfolio around operational excellence is going to charter 2 programs. One focused on operational excellence and one focused on organizational competence. And as you can see, each of our programs has projects within it that have specific goals and objectives that they're trying to accomplish. Now you'll see that there's a number and a percentage in parentheses. What that means is each project is expected to contribute that amount of cost savings towards this goal of reducing operating costs. So I'm going to show you how this plays out in real time. But before we do that, I need to point out that in this particular organization, they have project teams that operate on a temporary basis that support ongoing business activities within the organization. And it's important to note that in order to achieve that 15% contribution goal, or the 35% or the 25% contribution goal, the person who owns that objective has to be in the business, not on the project. Because once the project is completed, the project team is going to either go on to another project or they're going to go back to their ongoing jobs. So some business leader in the organization actually needs to make sure that the deliverables or the outputs that the projects produce are put to use in a way that's going to make sure that that contribution is realized. So within the Operational Excellence Program, we have these 3 projects, and we're going to talk about the Business Process Optimization Project, which has to deliver a 35% reduction or contribution towards reducing our overall operating costs. And to do that, the team produces 3 deliverables. One is an enhanced business case template, because the team realized that if we can stop non-strategic projects from ever being funded in the first place, we can save a lot of resources and ensure that we are investing our funds in activities that are really going to drive our strategy forward. Then we're going to make sure that as the project unfolds, when it gets to a decision gate where the executive leadership has to decide, do we continue this or do we stop it, that we have very strong decision gate requirements, so that if a project will not deliver its intended business value, our leadership can make the decision to no longer continue to invest in that project, so that we don't continue to basically throw good money after bad. And then lastly, we need to make sure that our business executives And business unit owners are actually accountable for making sure that we only invest in strategic projects and that we ensure that we're not continuing projects that aren't going to produce the intended value. So the capabilities that we've produced here is, one, we've reduced our non-strategic projects. With the stronger gate decision requirements, we can fail fast and cheap. So we don't continue to invest in projects that aren't going to deliver the value. And then we strengthen accountability and consequences with our organizational executives when they don't behave in manners that help us ensure that we're only investing in strategic projects with a good likelihood of success. And all of this contributes to the goal of reducing sunk costs, which in the end helps to support our overall goal of reducing our operating costs. So how does all of this work in real practice? So I'm going to give you an example from British Telecom. British Telecom found that their largest business segment were customers who purchased cable video services from them. And they were finding that for a number of years, that customer segment was being reduced significantly due to competition like Netflix and Hulu and other streaming services. And so they decided we need to adapt to find other services and other value that we can deliver through our broadband pipeline so that we continue to keep our customers engaged with us. So again, as we continue to update our pipeline with new programs, products, and services, how do we make sure that we keep our customers in the long term and bring in new customers? Now, in their traditional system, they found that it took them anywhere from 18 months to 3 years to bring a new program or product into actual service so that customers could actually use it. And they found that their competitors were moving much more quickly. So they put together a team to redesign a process to help them bring products to market much faster. So what they decided on the front end is we need stronger sensing capabilities. So we need to understand what's going on with our customers and what services are they looking for. And at the same time, we need to look in the marketplace at who's developing new capabilities that we can leverage. So they bring their customers and they bring these ideas into a workshop where they have project teams that are exploring and developing a minimum viable business case for how they can bring that idea forward. And their executives sit and listen to proposals, kind of like Shark Tank. They listen to proposals where teams pitch their ideas, and they pick 2 or 3 ideas to move into the portfolio. So these are the strategic initiatives that we're going to invest our resources in. Now you'll see at the bottom, there's a new entry bubble, and there's M1, M2, and M3. Now that's a traditional development process. So new entry means we're chartering a new project or program. And once that project or program is chartered, the team starts to develop the idea to develop a minimum viable product. And at M1, the executive leadership come back and they are presented with this new product and the concept of this is how we're going to bring it to market. And that's where the executive leaders make the determination, do we continue to invest in this? Do we need to change the concept so that it's something we can actually deliver to the market? Or do we need to stop the investment because our customers either aren't interested or they won't purchase it? If they make the decision to move it forward, then it goes into the next phase where the minimum viable product is actually turned into the final product that they plan to deliver to their customers. And during that phase, their marketing and communications teams are doing their research and planning their messages, and the sales team is getting ready to release how they're going to sell this new product in the marketplace and which customer segments are going to try it. So that by the time they get to the M2 gate, they have the full product and they have the full way in which they're going to deliver this service to their customers. Again, the executives have a decision to make whether to continue to fund it to full release, to stop it, to adjust it, to adapt it. So if the leaders decide, yes, we want to go forward, then all of the final development process occurs. All of the marketing and communications activities are ready to launch. And so by the M3 gate, the decision is made, yes, the product is ready to go, and all of the activities begin. Using this accelerated process, BT was able to reduce their time to market from 18 months to 3 years on average to 7 to 9 months on average, losing none of the discipline associated with having strong executive engagement, but making sure that the investment in these new products and services was actually going to deliver the intended value. So you can have strong portfolio processes and still have agility and speed to deliver new products and services to market. So with that, I'm actually going to turn things over to Otema Yirenkyi, who's going to share with you some personal experience related to her ventures as an entrepreneur. Over to you, Otema.
Thanks, Steve. Great to be here and look forward to some of the questions that'll hopefully come out. Now, what I want to do is to focus on one aspect of the portfolio, one aspect of your business, and that's really around your people. And as you can see from the image, there really isn't a silver bullet to make your business a reality, but one area that you cannot drop, one area that you've got to have a laser focus on is around empowering your people. And I want to share with you on my journey how important it is as an entrepreneur to, one, identify the power skills that you have, the current talent that you have, and also be able to understand what capacity and capability that you need to be successful. So can I get the next slide, Steve? So as I said, entrepreneurship is all about turning your ideas into reality. And I can tell you that several years ago, my friends and I, we wanted to build an accelerator. We had been coaches and mentors within the space, and we saw that there was a clear opportunity in the scale-up environment, right? So scale-ups are companies that obviously have already gotten some seed, they're post MVP, they're trying to really build out the portfolio that Steve has been talking about to deliver successfully. And so we were laser focused. We said, we've got the required ability. We've got a robust framework for growth. We developed a growth framework. We had some funding, and we felt we had an unbelievably strong network. But what was the key thing we learned? That in that, one must pivot and pivot again and pivot again. And so how did we understand how to pivot, right? And what was involved in pivoting? Well, one, the focus was around our business agility and listening to our customer, right? And you can only be really agile if you have in place both a strong framework that you can adapt and change, and also the people. And as you can see, I'm always going back to the people, right? Because the people within our organization were the ones who were able to sense, and as Steve mentioned, then seize, right? So you've got to have some of your team out there listening and filling the gaps in terms of the strategy to the execution. And one of the things we learned is that in order to really delight our customer, and our end customer was either a corporation who wanted to have access to the talent, or entrepreneurs who wanted to scale to the next level of funding. And we needed to hear them. And one of the things we learned is that they found us too expensive, right? So the price was prohibiting us from growing because we weren't able to acquire the number of customers we needed. And so what we then realized is really what our capability is our ability to coach and mentor. That was what was really powerful. And then in that ability to coach and mentor, we then realized that what we had was repeatable and then could scale. So as you're looking at your operation, focus is critical. Focus on that one thing. You might want to have an extended portfolio over time, but what is really critical is to focus on that one thing that then you can then translate and execute your strategy against. So that's what gives you that business agility. I want to go to the next slide. So in this journey that we had as an entrepreneur, one of the things I realized is that it wasn't necessarily my technical skills, it wasn't my business skills, but it was my power skills. And power skills used to be called, you might remember, they were your soft skills, but really they're what powers your business powers your idea forward. And I've identified in the set of power skills what some of my strengths are. My power skills are around collaborative leadership, around empathy for the voice of the customer, and digital and innovative mindset. And let me double click on this a little bit. In terms of collaborative leadership, I'm really focused on making sure that I have a diverse set of talent, and therefore it gives me an opportunity to hear different voices and blend them together. I've often been asked when I say I'm a collaborative leader, they say, well, does that mean you've got to have consensus from everyone? Does everyone in my small group or large organization need to agree? Absolutely not. It does mean, though, that you should take inputs into what you're thinking. And then it's very important to understand what's going to be the impact of those ideas. So if, for example, customer growth, you're starting out new as a new entrepreneur, you've got a wonderful product idea. If growth is the number one thing you're focusing on, everyone on the team should be leaning in and putting forth ideas that drive that growth, right? And then you're going to then look to say, how can I listen to the customer? Your ability to listen to the customer, to sense what they're doing, having empathy. Let's take the times that we're currently in. We're in a COVID-19, it's impacting lots of people on lockdown and fear. This isn't the moment, perhaps, to then bring out a new product that maybe be at a really high cost that customers won't be buying. But maybe it's a time, as I was speaking to a young entrepreneur that I mentor, he's in Nigeria, and he has a number of small hotels. And obviously in this lack of travel time, he hasn't been able to fill his rooms. He's not getting conference bookings, etc. But he has another passion around the environment, etc. And where his small hotels are situated, there are a lot of environmental and nice ecological places. So then we decided collectively together, we said, well, why aren't you leveraging that and taking people on virtual tours that they can then into the future buy into coming into your center? And so that was his empathy, understanding, this is not really a buying time, but what I am doing is I am filling my pipeline, right? I'm beginning to get customers and get some forward bookings for when we're going to fully engage. And why he was able to do that is he had a real digital and innovative mindset, right? And that allowed him to leverage the web, leverage a virtual touring kinds of things to have people have strong experiences. So I would say, identify what are the power skills that you have, right? Some of the other power skills that exist are around having a cultural mindset. Are you really sensitive? Do you have a learning mindset? And learning mindset, I think, is a key power skill. So when you're going out there to build your team as an entrepreneur, you may not have all the skills that you need as your product evolves, as the market evolves, as the customer evolves, but do you have the people on your team who are willing to learn, willing to grow? That mindset is critical. I want to go to the next slide and talk about the different types of talent that you need. So remember, you now have in your mind a set of power skills, right? And in those power skills, you then need to say, what talent types do I need to drive my business forward? So everybody always usually rushes for the specialist, right? I need a technical person in IT. I need someone who maybe has marketing and sales skills. But those are deep, narrow focused, your peers understand it. Or maybe as your business scales, you say, I need a set of generalists with broad scope and able to quickly respond. In my professional life, I've mostly been a versatilist, right? I've had deep skills, wide scope, and being able to be recognized across a set of domains. And what does this mean for your startup? So you're beginning to build your teams. And you're saying, I really need strength in marketing because I want to grow at least 10 to 20% per annum because I've just started out. Your specialist that you might really want to focus on is maybe a digital marketeers or maybe salespeople. And you might also say, what of these talent types can I outsource, right? I don't have the budget to bring everybody in-house, but I might be able to outsource. So now you've identified your core teams. You've identified some of the power skills that you need. And then the next part of the equation is really being able to understand what's the capability that I need in there and the capacity. And you'll need to calibrate that continuously as you scale and grow your business. Sometimes you're going to need a lot more specialists. Sometimes you'll need a lot more generalists. But I think what's important that I've learned is that calibration between capability and capacity to grow. And so as you can see, my focus and strategy is around putting your money on your people, investing in those skills, identifying the people who will drive your business forward, and understanding what talent types you might need inside your business and what talent types you could potentially outsource. Can you go to the next slide? So my call to action for you, as you're sitting here as an entrepreneur, to be able to make your idea a reality is first, identify what your power skills are. You as the leader, you as the co-founder, what are some of your power skills that you can leverage, right? Let me give you a sampling of some of those. You should be thinking, do I have technical proficiency as a power skill? Do I have the humility and the authenticity that I need? Can I mentor and be mentorable? Am I strategic and purposeful, right? So those are a set of power skills. Think about them, and then maybe even this evening reflect, what are my power skills? And if I look at the team that I have, what gaps do we have, right? We put them all together. And then go and look at your talent types, right? If you're a really numerical person, right? And so you're really good at the finances. Do you have a strong marketeer, right? Do you have a generalist or a technical person that can really help the team? Put that together and then think about your overall strategy and the portfolio of things you want to do. And then think of, as I mentioned, calibrating that between what you have internally as your capabilities and what capacity you have to grow. So that's my call to action for you, to really think about and making that reality. And I'm advising and saying my experience has been, put your money on your people. So that's it for me. Thanks a lot, and I look forward to having some questions from you.
Steve, you're on mute.
Sorry, that's all for today, but thank you for joining us for this session on strategy and portfolio. Our next session is going to focus on risk and uncertainty. And as George mentioned, this is part of a 6-part series. So our next session, a primer on risk and uncertainty. Then we're going to look at delivery capabilities associated with project and program management. We're going to have a deeper dive into the power skills that Otema talked about today. And then we're going to wrap up with how do all of these concepts fit together in practice. So on behalf of PMI, I want to thank you for joining us for this session today. I hope it was helpful for you. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, George, to take it from here.
Well, thank you so much to both of you, Otema and Stephen. Thanks a lot for that very insightful and powerful session. So we're going to go into Q&A shortly. So whilst we're preparing the questions for that, I will just tell you a little bit more about PMI, especially for those who are joining us for the first time. So just very quickly, PMI is a 50-year-old global organization whose aim is to provide skill set for better execution. Project management is all about better execution. So whether you're a child or a teenager or a multi-billion-dollar organization, we help to give you the best chance at being successful at your venture, or the best chance at going from idea to reality. And how do we do this? Essentially through our thought leadership initiatives, our certifications, our standards, and some of our digital products as well. So as you can see from the numbers here, we're a huge organization with over 3 million people across the globe. This includes our members, our chapters, our volunteers in over 200 countries. Also, in addition to this, we work with over 200 organizations globally. You know, our aim when we're working with organizations is to share best practice, gain also from their experience, and put that knowledge back into the project management body of knowledge, effectively raising the bar in project management globally. As you can see, 1.6 million certifications have been awarded. And this is across different forms of project management. So traditional or waterfall project management, as well as more modern or agile project management. Next slide, please, Steve. We're a global organization, as I mentioned, but we're also, we're also spread across Africa. We're in 17 countries, and we have members across many more than 17, as in we have chapters in 17, but members across more than 17. And we're currently running several initiatives, which I'm not going to go into the detail now, but if anyone's interested, you can always get in touch. And next slide, please, Steve. So I've said all this, and how do we actually get it done? As I mentioned, there's first our thought leadership in our networks, second is our certifications, and third is our standards and digital products. I've just seen a question actually about what can PMI offer. And I think for entrepreneurs or people at the early stage of their career, you want to be looking at section 2, which is certification. Specifically, if you look at the CAPM, the CAPM, that's a certification for early stage professionals or entrepreneurs, covers the basics of project management. And then just finally, I want to say that, if you want to know more about how to support what you're learning here, just log on to pmi.org. There's a lot of information there. So I'm going to go right into the Q&A, but I'll mention again, look out for the email that's coming out after this to follow on the detail. So let's jump right into the Q&A. I'm just going to look up the list of questions that I have. Got a lot of really good questions here. And I think the first one I'll start with, I will address this to Otema. First question is there a way that entrepreneurs can shorten the lifespan of strategy and portfolio to fit into the short-term phase? I'll repeat that again. Yeah, oh, you got it. Okay, go for it.
Thanks. So I think that if you identify, obviously you have an overall plan, right? And I think this is one of the ways which you can use an agile sort of lean approach, right? Where you can say, this is the specific product that I want to bring out. And your strategy, let's say it's a specific application that you want to develop. So your strategy should understand what the customer is, the MVP, etc. But then what you should be doing is maybe in 12-week increments, etc., you can be testing out in the market, right? And then you can have a retrospective after 90 days to say, how's my product really doing? What updates do I need to make? Or you could make your period longer. But in every 90-day cycle, you should be looking at how's that product performing? Do I need, as I talked about in terms of your talents, are there gaps there in terms of your ability to execute? So that's what I would do. I would use more of an agile approach. Have obviously your overall strategy, but break out the execution part of it into a specific, let's say, as they call it, sprints, where you are able to assess, do the retrospective, and then make the changes.
Great, great. Thank you very much, Otema. Next question I'll address to Steve. At the start of a thriving business, what area should the entrepreneur focus on? Organizational efficiency or operational success?
That's really going to depend on the organization, the type of offering it has in the market, and its customer base. So your customers really drive the capabilities that you need inside your organization. So if you have a very transactional kind of like a grocery store, come in, get the product off the shelf that you want, you may need just procedures that help the customer get in, get what they want, and leave as quickly as possible because that's what they're interested in. But if you have a product that involves engagement with the customer, where you need to explain to the customer how the product works, or where you need to interface with the customer around the product, then you need more customer-facing capabilities and more customer-engaging capabilities. So it really depends on the nature of your business, the market that you're serving. That will help to guide the types of capabilities that you need to make sure that you can be successful in the marketplace. And as I said in the beginning of the presentation, those capabilities may change significantly as your organization grows and evolves, and as you offer more products to your customers. So capability is not a static phenomena. It's going to be something that changes constantly over time as your business grows and evolves.
Great. And I just want to continue that because this is kind of related to the first two questions that we may have addressed it already, but I just want to call it out. So it says, would you say that business strategy is more of a long-term goal, whereas portfolio flexibility is the short-term goal of focus?
I'll jump in on that one. I think strategy is around what is the vision that you have for the success of your business. And generally, organizations don't significantly change that goal or objective unless they're being merged or purchased by an organization, or unless they're moving in a completely different direction. So you have that vision for what you're trying to accomplish. Your portfolio is the way you shape that vision as things on the ground change, as the market changes, as your business interacts with customers and you learn from them about things that you need to change and adapt. So just think of your strategy as a vision. This is what our business or our goal is to drive forward. And your portfolio is the way in which you organize every aspect of your business to make sure that that vision becomes reality.
That's great. And for the next question, I sort of touched on this earlier, but I think it may be worth opening it up to one of you, maybe Otema. The question reads, what PMI resources are readily available for startups and young businesses? I touched on the CAPM earlier, but if there's anything you want to elaborate on, then please feel free to go ahead.
I think PMI also has a number of really great digital offerings that, such like Baseline, which allows you to kind of, if you will, project management for beginners, where you can sort of begin to learn some of the fundamentals of how you organize your projects, how you manage your risks, etc. So on our website, I think you'll be able to see some of the great digital offerings that we have, and a number of them are free, which is really important for a startup.
Great. One more question. I think maybe we'll have two more. This is to Stephen. Is it correct to say that portfolio agility is part of the growing concern of the business? I think it is, but again, just to get a response from yourself.
Definitely, and I think it was stress tested during the beginning of the COVID crisis. So let me give you an example. Here in the US, we have some food distributors who primarily serve the restaurant industry. So at the time that the COVID crisis started, everyone rushed to the grocery store to buy up food, thinking that, I won't be able to get out of my house, so I need to stock up on all of my supplies, etc. At the same time that restaurants were shutting down or limiting their menus to delivery and takeout. And so you had these companies that were primarily serving restaurants with stocks and stocks of vegetables, of meat, of dairy products, etc., trying to figure out, okay, my customers are no longer there. What do I do with all of this product that I have? And we started to see them identify, well, wait, grocery stores don't have product to sell because people are buying up all the product. Let me have a relationship with my local grocery store and I can supply them so that they can repackage some of the products for individual purchase. Or some of the companies actually started advertising on social media that if you couldn't find what you were looking for in the grocery store, call them up and they could deliver to your home. So that was an example of organizations sensing that, okay, COVID is going to completely disrupt my business. Seizing an opportunity that the fact that grocery stores were running out of supplies meant that people were going to be looking for other sources of food, and then being able to seize that opportunity and find another way to deliver not only value to customers, but to a whole completely different type of business structure and business customer. So that's an example of how portfolio agility, one, keeps them on their core strategy. So their core strategy is to deliver quality food products for consumers. Typically, in their environment, it was restaurants. But that same value proposition also applied in this emergency situation when everyday people needed access to food as well. So they were actually able to very quickly pivot and make sure that they were able to continue to stay in business.
That's great. That's great. And then
And
final
I just
question.
add to that, just I think that why that was successful, getting back to, investing in the people, is that, you need a team that can be agile like that can think out of the box. And so again, going back to the thought about investing in your people. So if you have scarce resource as an entrepreneur, what's really key is that hiring people who have that sort of that mindset. So you're searching in your talent grouping for people that have a learning mindset and are also saying, where can we look for the opportunity? Where do we need to pivot? That kind of skill is what sets you up for success.
That's great. And then final question, which I want to ask to you, Otema, is what is the best way to move from being a specialist to a versatilist?
That's a great question. I think you need to start to expose yourself to getting skills in another domain. So let me give you from my own professional life. I started out very technical, right? I worked at IBM and I was in the technical teams. And then over time I saw, I'm not really having the opportunity to grow and expand my career. So I put my hand up to do a shadow assignment in HR. And I picked up those skills. And then I got an opportunity still at IBM to then move into a sales role and then into marketing. And so each time I moved, I then got deeper in specific areas. But what I did along the way is to say, what are the power skills that I can pick up from each of these areas? So, I think from the HR, I really learned how to be a much more effective leader. So that collaborative leadership came from that experience. When I worked a lot more in marketing, I built up my customer lens and I understood the needs of the customer much more effectively. And so I think that if you can do that, if you're in an organization, if you're an entrepreneur and you can't do that, I think you can find that through having a different type of mentor, someone who you can maybe shadow them on their kind of role. So say you're really a finance-oriented person and you say, well, I need to have some sales and marketing capability. Find a mentor who is an expert in sales and marketing, and that will give you the opportunity to be exposed to those concepts and sort of learn a bit.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very, very much to you both, Otema, Yirenkyi, and Stephen Townsend. Thanks to everybody who's watching. Thank you to the Tony Alumni Foundation and for everyone who's working behind the scenes to make this masterclass series happen. So we've come to the end of today's session, and I really, really look forward to the next one. Just so you know, we will be addressing any questions that we've not been able to address. We'll be addressing them in the follow-up email or even in TEF Connect. Look out for the slides and the recording, and also register for subsequent sessions. Remember, you will get your certificate of learning if you stay for all 6 sessions. Once again, thank you to everyone. We really enjoyed this, and we're looking for the next one. Thanks, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.